Alright guys, so welcome to the Board Game Geek Beginners Tournament. I'm your caster here, Jess, and we've got Groove versus Gurdijieff today. We'll be starting off with Groove playing as the corporation, and just getting things started right now. We'll see what identities they're choosing to use. So, our runner will be playing as Chaos Theory, and let's get them to reveal their hands for me. And he's already got that going on. So we'll just wait for our corporation player to get set up. So our Chaos Theory is starting with a Fem, Joshua B, Magnum Opus, Gordian, and a Plascrete. So this looks like a Tag Me style deck. Pretty common with Chaos Theory, I think, because she kind of gets away with it easier than others. And our corp will be playing as Wayland. And Groove is a first-time player on Octagon as well, so he might take a little getting used to the interface, so hopefully that won't be too big of an issue. Meanwhile, our runner is going to mulligan. I don't really know what's in his deck, but first turn Magnum Opus is pretty good usually. Just, getting ready. Having that Fem out means that he could deal with any kind of early sentries. And so here's our corp hand. And yeah, I would definitely mulligan this. He's got some economy, but 2 agendas and a nice he can't res. Too risky to leave critical servers open like R&D and HQ. So our runner mulligans into decent hands. He's got another Joshua and sure gamble this time, the same Gordian and Notoriety. So he's using a Notoriety Chaos Theory deck, and combined with the Joshua B, that's how he gets his extra clicks, I see. And test run, pretty standard. As far as this is before the Creation Control Deluxe expansion, so there is no self-modifying code. And in general, I like self-modifying a lot more than test run. But there are some good interactions with test run. We saw a Fem in his previous hand, and test run Fem is just a great combo. Did I miss that? I thought he wanted the mulligan. Well, I guess he decided not to do it. And so he's going to draw into a Beanstalk. In a case like this, I'd really just put that ice on R&D and just hope he doesn't run HQ. But he's got 2 agendas in hand and an Adonis, so I'm not too surprised that he's going to put it on to HQ. He really doesn't want to have to res it, but he'll be able to, so that's nice. And our runner, unfortunately for him, doesn't see any R&D attack cards here. So turn 1 indexing, turn 1 Maker's Eye is not going to happen unless he draws into it. Definitely fear the indexing more, because that is just an incredibly powerful card. Based on seeing the corporate war here, our corporation might be using a kind of agenda-heavy Wayland, which is pretty common. We use a lot of hostile takeovers and 2-pointers. So it's our runner's turn, and seeing an R&D left open versus a Shaper has really got you thinking that there is something nice in HQ. And so I definitely like to just run here and make him res it, see if he will res it, and also run R&D. So he's going to start with a sure gamble, and that's great. Starts, and next action will be to run R&D. This is a very solid opening for our runner. He'll access and see if he gets lucky. No dice, but some good information surely. And I'd still like to see a run on HQ here. Not really going to lose a whole lot early game, even if it's the Neural Katana, not a big deal. Which is really the most dangerous ice early game. So unfortunately our corp is kind of telegraphing that he doesn't have any more ice. Our runner draws into a Tinkering. So Tinkering is a great card. Really not used a whole lot. I'm not sure why. And he'll opt to take a click or take a credit with his last click. Wouldn't mind laying down the Joshua B early on. Gets it out of your hand. Only costs 1, but the thing about Joshua B is you don't really want to reveal that you're using it, but it's almost impossible not to because you can't use it the turn you lay it down. So getting it out early I don't think hurts too much. The corp draws mandatory into a toll booth, and our runner saw that. So if he just straight plays up an ice here, our runner is going to know it's that toll booth. Or, well, he won't know, but he'll have a really good idea that that's what it is. I'd kind of like to see him beanstalk and put the toll booth on a remote and lay down the Adonis. He's going to go with the safe play and put it on R&D. He's got 2 agendas in hand. I don't know the agenda makeup of his deck, but with 2 in hand in your top 5 cards essentially, you can be reasonably sure that there's not going to be any more coming up. And sometimes it's worth it to roll the dice, but sometimes that loses you the game. So I can't fault him for this. He's got a decent amount of money, but not enough to res both ice. So now HQ is actually looking a little exposed. If the runner hits R&D next turn, and then hits HQ, he's got 3 juicy targets in hand. Let's see what our runner will do. With the Gordian and the Tinkering, he can pretty much get wherever he wants. It's a good thing he's using Gordian Blade, because toll booths are in this corporation deck, and Gordian does the best versus it. And I definitely like this. Our runner is going to attack HQ and see what's there. And this is a situation where that Hadrian's has to come online. There's just too many good things in HQ. He can't afford to give up the ghost here. Now our runner is just... he's got to know that that's a toll booth on R&D, and Corp does not have enough. And sure enough, he will run. So our runner hits R&D but doesn't get lucky. So, let's see what he does. The last 2 clicks here, I'd like to see him draw, and no matter what, he can play down that Joshua B and get back down to 5 cards at minimal loss. He could just take 2 credits, but he really wants to see more of his deck. Like, he hasn't really gone beyond a couple cards here. There's got to be better breakers, more breakers in here. You might want to draw into a Magnum. And he draws into a Diesel. That's a great draw. So now I'd lay down the Joshua B and next turn start off with the diesel. And there he goes. Oh, our corp draws into another toll booth, and that's a little unfortunate seeing all that big ice early. I think really the best thing you can do here is just triple click. It really sucks to have to res that Hadrian's and toll booth right off the bat, but that's strong ice, and it's really not going anywhere. Resing the ice is pretty painful early game because you really want to use that early money to push out agendas. But, it's that one-time investment, and so until our runner gets his rig online, those Hadrians and toll booths are really devastating. So, he will take 3 credits. I think that's the right play. Our runner has got to know that that's a toll booth, and so I definitely don't want to see him run R&D here. It's not worth it to take the 3 credit hit when you have a bunch of stuff that you could play to get below 3 credits. This toll booth won't make you lose 3 credits if you're below 3 credits. So playing that Gurdijieff gets him down to 5. If he diesels into something else, he just might be able to let's see what he's doing here. He's going to test run. I think he's going to test run out of Fem. There he goes. I think this is a good read by the runner. There's a Hadrian's on HQ really says that there is something juicy in there, and the Fem gets by it very cheaply. He will bypass. And he's got just enough credits to do this twice more. And he snags an agenda. 2 points on the board. Now, the question is, do you want to keep doing this? You got an agenda. What are the odds that there's another agenda in HQ? And Zetpi's making the right call here. He knows what's going on. He's going to run on HQ and pay another 2 to get down to 2 credits, and then he'll run R&D. This is pretty strong play by the runner here. He's really taking advantage of the board state. He's got 4 cards in hand, so a Sea Scorch is not too threatening. He doesn't know if there's double Scorch, and he sees the other agenda. So that Hadrian's totally worthless and not doing anything. 4 points on the board. And it looks like he will opt to run a 4th time on HQ. I would like to see the R&D run here, force the toll booth res. Instead, he's going to attack HQ again. Not a bad call, but now he's at 0 credits. And he sees the Adonis, and unfortunately he can't do anything about it. But now he should know every card in the corporation's hand, because he saw the toll booth earlier, and now he sees the Adonis. With 0 credits to his name, he's in a bad spot too. He scored 4 points, so he's got plenty of time to build up. It'll be a long time before a corporation player will have any viable defenses out to score an agenda. He's got to draw an agenda, for that matter. This is not looking good for our corporation player. And our corp draws into a green level clearance. This is a great C for him because he wants to see different cards. He doesn't need this economy. He needs something to end the run cheaply, and he needs to see agendas. The Hadrian's is still going to do a lot of work for him. Wall Static is a great draw here. Definitely like to see this go down on a remote and probably put the Adonis down. Instead, he's going to put it on his HQ. And so I don't like this play because the test run Fem is great, but now you know that it's on top of his deck. and he has 0 credits. That's a long time before you can get that Fem out for real. The Hadrian's is no longer neutralized by the Fem. The wall is static is really strong defense in the current board state, and the Adonis campaign could be ticking away starting next turn. Our runner will draw 3, and that's a great draw. He gets past the Fem that he knew was there and sees a modded and Magnum. That's really perfect for the situation he's in, so I would expect him to click twice and then put out the Magnum. So our runner really is right back into this. He lost all of his economy, but he lost all of his credits, but he got 4 points out of it and drew into a perfect way to get back into the game economically. He'll have a Magnum, so a Gordian Blade and Fem are really close to getting out. And now putting that wall of static on top of HQ is looking a bit better, but at this point he could have the Adonis ticking. And he draws into a Simone. Now, I really like Simone as a card. She is just an economic card. She makes advancing agendas basically free and can be used to bluff. And she also really synergizes with commercialization if the Wayland player happens to be using it. I'll lay down the Adonis behind the toll booth. And this is kind of a problem because Fem really neutralizes toll booth. You don't want to get that target hit, but Fem can't really come out this turn, and so we'll see what our runner does. I would kind of like to see him draw a card, or he could just hit Magnum 4 times. Either way is not a problem. He will draw, and he sees an all-nighter, so this is just further synergy for his notoriety. And so at this point I hope he doesn't have any other extra click generators, because most notoriety decks will use all 3 notorieties so that they only have to score 4 points. And so he's already at that point, and he's got 1 notoriety in hand. He needs 2 more, then he needs to set up his rig to make sure he can successfully run HQ and R&D. But you don't need more than 2 extra clicks on your turn, because you just need a total of 6 to do the 3 successful runs and then play the 3 notorieties. Our Corp will forget to res his Adonis, and I hope he remembers that right now, and he'll draw into a hostile takeover. And this is really unfortunate. He really needs to have that Adonis going, but he's going to forget. He will score the takeover, and this will get him a good amount of money. Can afford to res just about anything. And now Archer is a real threat, and since it seems like our runner is using Fem as their primary sentry breaker, Fem doesn't deal with Archer too well. The turn passes back to our runner, and with the sure gamble in hand, I think best possible turn for him is to use the Magnum to get up to the threshold and use the sure gamble and then draw. He just needs to draw, and get into his notorieties and go for the win. There's not a whole lot going on the Corp side. He's got a lot of money, so running is not a terrible thing here. In fact, there we go. Now he's got a Corroder in hand. I'd like to see him run R&D here. He should know that that's still a toll booth, and he's at 2 credits, so the toll booth won't hit him. Oh, he'll draw, he'll Magnum again, and I expect a sure gamble here. At this point, he just needs to get his rig out, and he is really in a strong position. Unfortunately, the Joshua B is really only going to be used for the glory turn, because it's Wayland. Against other archetypes, you can just use it pretty much every turn. Not worry about it. And so our court player, what will he draw into? Will he remember to res the Adonis this turn? I hope so. There we go. So he draws into a government contracts. Unfortunately, so it's times like these that I really wish he had played down that wall of static on the remote server. Because then he could potentially draw into something else and set himself up into laying down that government contracts on the next couple turns. Adonis would be down to 6 credits, and so by the time he'd finished setting up, he'd have only 3 credits left on it. It's fine to trash it at that point. Laying down Simone here in preparation, I think, is a good play. He also, honestly, he should draw. He needs up more ice to protect this server. He knows Femme Fatale is out there, so he needs at least 2 ice with End the Run on them to make sure that, or at least to help guarantee that he can protect that agenda. He'll draw. I think this is great. Shadow, not the greatest. Femme deals with it pretty easily. But at least it's some piece of ice, and so he can bluff with it. And if the Femme doesn't come down, then he might actually get it to hit. He'll put the Shadow on top of the toll booth, and I think that's good. He will need to manually reduce his credits, though. It looks like they caught it. I didn't catch that earlier, but it's good on him to retcon it. And so the turn passes back to our runner, and I'd just like to see him start setting up. You know that Adonis is going to tick down, and so if he gets his 3 notorieties, he can just go for the win. He sees a Katie, and it's interesting to me that he's using both Katie and Magnum Opus in the same deck. I'd like to see him play Gurdijieff Corroder here. Without making a successful run, the Sea Scorch isn't a threat. Just need to get that rig out ASAP. And sure enough, there's the Corroder. A lot of money on the corpse side, so he can afford to res anything, and there's a lot of big ice out here. Even if our runner gets to the 3 notorieties, he's going to have a lot of credits to make these successful runs. Our corp draws into another agenda, Project Atlas. And here, again, he's really wishing that Adonis had only 3 credits left on it. Because this is a time when it's totally worth it to just trash it. And even better, he could just draw here, lay down Simone, and try to bait something. I'd definitely like to see him draw. He needs more ice options. And unfortunately for him, our runner has got the full rig in hand, and he's just setting up. So the longer our court player stalls, the worse it gets for him. He needs to try to push something out quickly, because our runner is setting up the rig real fast. He is going to go for it. He'll trash the Adonis with 6 credits left on it, and he'll put down the government contracts. This is really unfortunate. If he had put down the Simone the turn earlier, he could be paying 0 to advance that twice. But That's just not the way it went. And unfortunately for him, our runner can get in there if he wants to. We'll just see if the runner thinks that's a trap or not. Because if he opts to, he can just get that fem down, no problem. And the shadow won't stop him, but if he truly believes that it's an agenda, and he's willing to take the hit, then the tag won't matter. You could also take the 3 off Katie, lay down the fem on the innermost ice, and then hit Magnum once. But this is nice. He's going to use Joshua B to gain a click. I definitely like this. He's doing this tells me that he is definitely going to go for it. So he'll use his first real click to take the 3 off Katie. And now the question is, will he hit the right ice with the fem? So a lot of people will put the strongest ice on the innermost portion of the server. But, knowing that, you can play around it as the corp and put the strongest piece of ice on the outermost portion. But because he saw the toll booth earlier, he can have a pretty good idea when our corp was really low on agendas that that's the toll booth there. So now our runner is nice and rich. He can lay down the fem. He's wondering if he can break the first ice, and with that tinkering, he definitely can. He does know that. I think he does know that that's the toll booth on the innermost portion of the server, and so he's just deciding whether he has enough money to actually get in, and he does. So long as he goes for it, he will take this game. Yep, and there he goes. He'll tinker. And unbeknownst to him, that wasn't necessary, but it'll be all good. And he's going for it. So Groove here, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of experience with test run. And so the way that works is when you test run out a card, you install it for free, and then when your turn is done, it goes back on top of your deck. And so our runner drew it earlier with the Diesel. It's the same fem, and so it's just a bug of the game engine here that the old fem marker is still on Hadrian's, but that can be manually removed very easily. So, and then he's going to run with the bad publicity. He is getting in no problem. So, knowing this, I think the only option is just to not res. Don't res the first ice, don't res the second ice, make them second guess. With 2 cards in hand, our runner is going all in. He'll have a tag. If there's a scorch, he's dead. So, he's going for it. He really believes it's an agenda, and honestly, he's just lucky that it's going to be a 3-pointer. Like, if this was a bait, if this was a trap, if this was a 2-pointer, it is probably game over for him next turn, assuming our corp draws into a Scorched Earth, assuming he's using Scorched Earth. So he'll break the shadow. Not really sure why he's breaking the tag. And then he'll move on to the next one. He'll be quite happy to see that it is the toll booth, and so he'll just bypass it. So this is an important timing interaction. A lot of people see toll booth and think that, well, he runs into it and he has to pay 3, but because the runner's initiating the action, he gets to choose the order of the way things resolve. And so he bypasses on encounter before the 3 credits on encounter hits. and Groove calls GG a little preemptively, but a successful run, once you've marked it as successful, means you have to access. So he has no choice. Seems like he's having trouble accessing. And there you go. 3 points, wins the game. That was a pretty quick one. Pretty dominating by the runner. He had all the answers at all the right times. Drew into exactly what he needed. Had the perfect response. Got lucky hitting HQ. He expected to get something there, but he hit both. And that was a pretty quick game. So we'll see you in the next one.